When one is horrible, it means that there is nothing that is objectively good and progressive that will come out of such individual.
If you have been convicted of an offense before and you have been pardoned, and anybody is trying to bring that up against you and calling you a convict, you have the power to sue that person for defamation.
Justice must not only be done, but it must be seen by all to have been manifestly done.
Every citizen has a right and every citizen has an obligation.
That a plea of ultra-virus acquit or convict is very different from the plea of pardon.
Trespass is that act that interferes with the peaceful.
No matter how minute this,
right? No matter how minute.
He who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Hello out there, you are welcome to another fresh episode of the program Unjustified Nigeria on ACNN television, reaching you from Abuja. On today's episode, our subject of discussion will be on the supremacy of the Constitution, part 3. My name is Anozie Chinomsu, your anchor. It remains a statement of fact that no sovereign nation can legitimately exist without a constitution. This is because Constitution forms the democratic heart in which any sovereign state functions. In our previous episode titled The Supremacy of the Constitution Part 1 and 2, we define what Constitution is all about, the types of Constitution, the essence and importance of the Constitution, the overriding powers of a Constitution. We also x-ray the difference between the Constitution and decree. But on today's episode, we shall be discussing the legal impact of the constitutional amendment, the flexibility and rigidity of the Constitution, and other things you need to know about the Constitution. Joining me now in the studio to explain all of these and lots more is Barrister Emmanuel Omar Omakalo. He's a legal practitioner of many years of experience, the head of chambers at Hanafi and Associates, and also a member of the Unity Bar here in Abuja. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You are here again to finish up what you have started all this while. Yes, thank you very much. In our previous episode, we have talked about what Constitution is all about, so we don't need to define it. So anybody who wants to just go to our platform and look at it. But now, having known what it is, Constitution, can you just tell our viewers what makes Constitution flexible and rigid? When you say that Constitution is flexible in nature or rigid, educate our viewers. Let's start from there.
When you talk about Constitution being rigid and Constitution being flexible, that is the nature of the Constitution. Now, when a Constitution is flexible, it means the process of amending it is not cumbersome. The process of amending a flexible Constitution is easy. It can be amended by a simple majority of the Parliament.
Okay.
Now,
you mean the Parliament now, maybe in terms of House of Rep and
the
Senate. Okay.
Now, but when the Constitution is rigid, it means the process and the procedure of amendment is cumbersome.
What do you mean?
In other words, it means the process is not as easy as it is. The process is cumbersome because it has to undergo a step. The process is not flexible. So that is the nature of flexibility and rigidity is because of the amendment of the said Constitution. So in rigidity, it means the Constitution can only be amended by 2/3 members of the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Okay,
yes.
So that means where you have 2/3 majority of the House of Representatives and you don't have same in the Senate, or put it otherwise, where you have same in the Senate but you don't have 2/3 in the House of Representatives, it cannot just pass, it cannot go.
It cannot. The amendment of the Constitution derives its authority from Section 9 of the 1999 Constitution. If you go to the Section 9, it stipulates that there will be twofold proposal and twofold amendment. This stands to reason that whatever happened at the National Assembly, which is the Senate, must be the same that will happen at the House of Representatives. if there is a procedure or vote that the House of Representatives have casted the vote against a clause, that clause cannot fly and be amended by the Senate. So it means the Senate and the House of Representatives must be in harmony in proposing the bill. There must be in harmony in passing the bill. That is why the Constitution says there must undergo twofold proposal.
It means from your explanation,
amendment.
Nigerian Constitution already is rigid. That's why it's
Yes,
rigid in nature.
Nigerian Constitution is rigid in nature.
nature.
And we have in the last episode explained the rigidity is because they don't want a situation whereby a voice vote or some certain
persons,
some political gladiators
just sit down one place
and manipulate and amend the Constitution.
That's right.
It is assumed that the Constitution is the sovereign will of the people.
That's right.
And because it's our sovereign will, you cannot manipulate it, you cannot amend it, you cannot alter it to suit your own whims and caprices. Now, how do we secure this sovereign will of the people? You have to incorporate that rigidity as the nature of the Constitution. That before you alter this, you must make recourse to the House of Representatives and the Senate.
And of course, obeying what has been enshrined in the Constitution, there are steps.
There are steps, just like it's been stipulated in Section 9.
You do much about that when we come to that. Having explained what, in fact, whatever constitution or any law for any nation that has this rigorous process is rigid in nature.
Yes,
unlike flexibility, where somebody maybe in a democratic decree, they say a head of state will just proclaim so it becomes law. It's not like that.
It's not like that.
Thank you very much. Now, we have seen some situation whereby some people, especially the political elites or the higher mighty in quotes, you see that they even flout court orders, they don't obey constitution. My question now is, answer to our viewers, what is the position of the law if any part of the constitution or any section at all is not obeyed by any citizen or citizens or group of people? What happens?
Let's start this to understand that the Constitution is supreme. That's why Section 1, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution stipulates to the effect that this Constitution is supreme, and its provisions shall be binding in all persons and authority throughout the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It didn't say certain persons. It didn't say certain authority. It said on all persons and authority. Now, the Constitution assumes that those who wield the powers and the state actors must always be obedient, observant of the provisions of the Constitution. But our challenge is the inability of the political gladiators and the state actors to adhere to the provisions of the Constitution. So what do we do in such a situation? Any acts or actions that contravene the Constitution is unconstitutional. Any act or action that goes contrary to the Constitution is acting ultra vires the Constitution.
Okay, what do you mean by, this is your legal language?
Now,
How to explain it so that our viewers will understand.
The ultra vires of the Constitution means you are acting contrary to the provisions of the Constitution.
Are there penalties to that?
Yes, that is why if there is any disobedience to the Constitution, what you will face is either you have a penalty, there must be fine, there may be prison sentencing.
Wow.
So when there is disobedience to the Constitution, you who felt aggrieved of such disobedience have the right to approach the court. Let's assume and take into consideration Section 34 of the 1999 Constitution, which is that every individual shall have the respect of human dignity. Accordingly, no person shall be subjected to torture, inhuman degradation, forced labor. Now, let's assume this scenario using the police. If there is an investigation and someone is subjected to torture, the Constitution has stipulated no one shall be subjected to torture or inhuman behavior.
That's an express provision of the Constitution.
Yes. Now, if the state actors has acted contrary to this, the only recourse you can have as the victim is to approach the court.
Okay. Not to take the laws into your hands.
No. The court has always frowned at it. Okay. Do not take the laws into your hand. The court frowns at it. In law, we say it's a self-help. Okay. We don't encourage self-help. What we encourage is that when you feel aggrieved that your right is being trampled upon, you approach the court. Okay. Because the court is the only place you can have the remedy. You see, where there is wrong, there is right.
Where there is wrong, there is right, from Barrister Makalo. You are going to explain more on this when we come back for break. Please do join us again, our viewers. Hi, you are welcome to The Speaker on ACNN Television, reaching from Abuja. The Speaker is the platform by which we discuss certain things happening in the nation. On today's segment, we are looking at justified Nigeria or an unjustified Nigeria. My name is Anoze Chinomso. To justify simply means to prove or show to be just. It means to vindicate, maintain, or defend as conformable to law, justice, propriety, or duty. From all this, one could see that when justification is present in anything, there is exoneration, pronouncement of free from guilt, and greater element of doing that which is good and right. But such cannot be said about an unjustified issue, because the reverse is always the case when it comes to justification. With the kind of fearful and unthinkable things happening in Nigeria, I am moved to ask on whether we are living in a justified Nigeria or an unjustified Nigeria. It is rather unfortunate that we claim to be one Nigeria, but the actions and reactions of the people in government displays otherwise of that fact. How can we juxtapose and justify the treating of one region or religion in this country with soft gloves, and the rest are treated with harsh and unbearable gloves? This is a perfect example of an unjustified Nigeria. In a situation where bandits and kidnappers have not been pronounced terrorists up till now, and harmless indigenous people of Biafra are pronounced terrorist group, is a clearer pointer to the fact that we are living in an unjustified Nigeria. In a situation where Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is treated like an animal and being dehumanized in the custody of Department of State Services, DSS, and Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, a self-appointed pre-bandit advocate, is allowed to move freely all over the place, is a perfect picture of an unjustified Nigeria. Oftentimes I ask myself on whether or not Ahmed Gumi is even a human being. Never for once in his life has he ever condemned the adoption and killing of innocent people by bandits, including school children. Rather, he condemns the military operations against the bandits. Sheikh Gumi has eloquently been consistent that bandits must be compensated by government. For doing what exactly, if I may ask? For raping Nigerian women and molesting our young girls? For killing and spilling of blood of the innocent citizens of Nigeria on a daily basis? For making innocent little children of Nigeria orphans within a twinkle of an eye? For inflicting an excruciating pain in the lives of Nigerians? These terrorists, causing all this mayhem and man's humanity to fellow man, are the people Sheikh Ahmed Gumi is advocating for them to be compensated. Gumi wants them to be compensated in the north for raising down villages and wasting souls. Gumi wants them to be compensated in the west for making blood of innocent Nigerians flow like a river. There was peace and tranquility in the nation before these bandits took over the land. And now, they have taken away the peace, and Gumi wants them to be compensated. He's saying the same thing in the west and south. Bandits must be compensated. And such a man has not been arrested for one day let alone trying him in any court of law. Where is DSS, Nigerian police, and other security agencies in Nigeria? What an unjustifiable Nigeria. How can it be that everything in Nigeria seems to be unjustified? Bogus national budget unjustified, poor infrastructure unjustified, epileptic power supply unjustified, dilapidated state of our roads unjustified, excessive borrowing plan unjustified, high level of insecurity unjustified, poor health care scheme unjustified, unemployment unjustified, lack of innovation and creativity unjustified. Oh Lord, please come over to Nigeria and save us. How can it be that the cost of everything is increasing in Nigeria on a daily basis, but the income is not increasing? How can it be that university lecturers are threatening to embark on an industrial action and the federal government is not doing anything about it because none of their children are schooling in Nigeria? How can it be that young, intelligent graduates are roaming the streets in search of jobs, but some of the children of these political elites have already secured jobs even while they are still in school? All this can only happen in an unjustified Nigeria. In order to justify Nigeria, I therefore speak. Nigeria is the only country we have which we can call our own, and thus all hands must be on deck in order to make it better. We all must start to see ourselves as one because we have more to unite us than divide us. And until we begin to tolerate and love each other, in order to collectively build this nation for a better tomorrow, where inclusivity, unity, peace, justice, equality, tranquility, and equity shall reign, we shall continue to live in an unjustified Nigeria instead of a justified Nigeria. My name is Anozechi Nomso. I just want to speak. Glad to know that you are still there with us, and we are still here in the studio with Barrister Emmanuel Omakalo Counsel, having explained with your world of experience what Constitution is all about and what happens to any citizen or group of people that obey that. That means we have the civic responsibility to obey the sections or section of the Constitution at all times. Now, the question is, when does a Constitution need an amendment? We are talking about amendment of Constitution. Do anybody wake up tomorrow and say we need that? At what stage will you tell our viewers that the Constitution is necessary for an amendment?
There is always this saying that the only thing that is constant is change.
Yes, sir.
Now, with the growth of political participation, people tend to understand things are not working the way we need it. People have paid much interest in politics. When like what we have in 80s, 90s, before the year 2000, the political participation then is not as we have it today.
Now, yes.
People are much aware of the happenings in the governance. Now, because of those awareness, it creates room for making amendments. People have come up to read, even when they are not legal practitioners, to read the Constitution from page 1 to the end. They now understand their right, the obligations on their own part, and the right the state owe them. Now, because of this political awareness and development, there is every tendency and the need to amend the Constitution to suit what we have presently. What is obtainable in 1999 is not what is obtainable in the year 2021.
Now, that will now take us to the question of the legal steps to be taken. Because I don't want you to breach it. I want you to take time to explain that, because we are still talking about amendment now. Now, what are the legal steps or legitimacy to be taken in amendment of a constitution in a state level or federal level? What do I mean? Is there anything different when a constitution is being amended on state level or federal level, or are they the same thing? What are the steps?
It's pertinent to state this.
Okay.
There is no constitutional amendment in the state level.
Very important. There is no constitutional amendment in the state level. That's the essence of Justify Nigeria. So whoever that tells you, even if it's a judge or senior advocate of Nigeria, that constitutional amendment takes place in the state level, that is unconstitutional and is so a falsity and a fallacy. So please go ahead.
What we have at the state level is ratification. Ratification. Constitution is a federal law, not law made by the states. That's why there is no amendment in the states. What the state legislatures do is ratification. Now, the amendment is at the National Assemblies, which is the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Okay.
That's where we have the amendment.
Okay.
Now, when a bill comes up for amendment, remember what we said at the previous episode.
Yes.
A bill can come from a private person.
As you and I now?
Yes,
and
a bill can come from the state.
Okay.
A bill can come from an organ of the government, an agency. Now, when you forward the bill, it's a proposal. You want this to be incorporated in the Constitution.
Or removed, as the case may be.
As
anyway.
the removed. Okay. So now, what you do is you write it as a proposal and forward to the House of Representatives and the Senate. When they receive it, they forward your proposal to the Rules and Procedure Committee. It is the Rules and Procedure Committee that will tender it at the floor of the House.
Okay, and that of Senate.
Because whatever, during amendment, whatever happened at the Senate is the same procedure that will happen at the House of Representatives. That is why the Constitution says two-fold proposal, two-fold amendment. And the two houses will come together to harmonize the amendment.
Yeah, you see the rigidity of the thing now.
That's why the rigidity of the nation.
Course.
Now, when the Rules and Procedure Committee lay it at the floor of the House, it undergoes the first reading. After the first reading, there will be a second reading. Remember, this is only at the federal level. State has no say at this point. Okay. The state legislatures are not amending. Okay. The legislatures amending is the House of Representatives and the Senate. So after the second reading, they will refer the bill to the Committee on Constitution Review. Okay. The Committee on Constitution Review will look at the clause, because each of the proposal at that stage is a clause. Let's assume I need a proposal or amendment as regards the police, and I want it to be altered or amended for the state to have power to manage the Nigerian police. What we say is state policing. We remove it from the federal structure. Now, if I use that proposal, it's a clause. Any other proposal coming from individuals or from state is also a clause. Now, we may have like 20 clauses that we are proposing. These 20 clauses is already before the Senate and the House. When they want to do reading, both the first reading and the second reading, they are reading all those clauses. And each member of the Senate or each member of the House of Representatives must vote either in favor or against each of the clause. For each of the clause to succeed, that clause must have to take majority votes.
Both in the House of
the House of the Rep and the Senate. For each of the clause, not as a general clause. They do it for each of the clause. So if we have 20 proposal, which is 20 clause, the vote must be for 20 times for each of the clause, because each of the clause is proposing for one different bill and another different bill. Now, after the second hearing, I've said they will refer it to the Committee on Constitution Review.
Yes.
During that review, is when we are going to have a public hearing.
Okay.
So
As at the time it has gotten to that committee on constitution.
Yes, on
okay.
constitution. So
They
that
now
is
call
when we
people,
have public hearing. The essence of having a public hearing is to incorporate the whole citizenry to have a force and a voice in the amendment. You must have a say in the amendment. So we now have a public hearing, both at the federal level, at the state, and all the region, so that wherever you are, you don't need to come to Abuja. They do it, all the state will stipulate a day to have a public hearing, and the regions will have it. They put all the reports together and bring it back to the National Assembly. Now, after the public hearing, we have the third reading.
Is it the one they call final reading?
Yes, that is where we have the final reading.
Okay.
So the third reading, after the third reading, the House members, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, will still cast a vote.
Again?
Either in favor
against.
or against. So after the third reading, we now have passage of the bill. They harmonize whatever happened at the Senate and at the House of Representatives. You bring it together, you harmonize and send to the 36 House of Assembly.
Of the states?
Of the state, all the 36. It's for them to give ratification. It's for them to vote either for or against what the House of Representatives and the Senate have already resolved.
Okay, that's why you
what
said
they
that
have already passed.
There is no amendment that happens.
There is no
in the state
amendment,
level,
it's
just
for
for
ratification.
Okay.
Now, for that ratification to scale through, it must be 2/3 of the 36 House of Assembly. That means we are looking at 24 House of Assembly out of 36.
Yes.
So for it to scale through, 24 states House of Assembly must vote in favor for it to be ratified. If they vote in favor of each clause, the clause has scaled through. If they vote against a clause, that clause can never see the face of the, because it means the bill did not go through for one particular clause. So the only clause that will go through
are the ones that they vote in favor.
The one that they voted in favor and fully ratified. After the ratification, they bring it back to the National Assembly, who send it to the President for assent. So
What
now the power of the presidency to assent, some scholars have the understanding that once the president assents to it, it becomes law. Some persons believe that the president do not have to assent to it to become law. But what has happened over the years in Nigeria is that the president must assent to it to become law. But is that the position of the Constitution? If we make reference and recourse to Section 9 of that 1999 Constitution, there is no provision that the president must assent to those bills to become law.
No,
the position of the Constitution is when it goes through this rigorous process at the National Assembly and have gone to the State Assembly and have the ratification, automatically it has become law. There is no provision in the Constitution that the president must assent to it to become law. That is why in the past it has been an issue.
Okay, so opinions are divided on that.
Yes, we have some bills we are passed by National Assembly at the federal level. The State House of Assembly voted massively in favor of that bill. The president refused to assent to it. So it did not become law.
As a matter
some
of
lawyers, I think in 2019, some lawyers gone to court
okay,
to challenge the assent of the president, that we don't need it for a bill to become law in constitutional amendment, because the Constitution did not make such provision.
Well, it's a matter of semantics and, of course, principle. The president usually assents to it. Now, does the president have any right to remove any clause of after going through this rigorous process? Maybe once you say, before I was sent, I will remove one clause. Does he have the power to do that?
No.
He doesn't have
the president have no. The president is the executive arm of government.
Okay. Okay.
He has no power in making law. And you know about making law, amendment is the
duty of the legislature.
Duty and functions of the legislature.
And under
his
the
power only extends to signature assenting to the already amended bill.
And under the principle of separation of checks and balances and separation of powers and all that, of course, he has no right to do that. Yes. We want to appreciate you for coming. And just in 1 minute, what's your general advice to our viewers before we wrap it up? Your general advice.
The Constitution, we keep saying, is the grand norm. You must always, at all material time, obey the Constitution. And if you feel aggrieved that any part of the provision which affects your personal right has been trampled upon or breached by any individual or state actors, approach the court for remedy.
Approach the court for remedy. Prevention, there is any section or subsections that will affect your personal right as a citizen. We want to appreciate you for coming, sir.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much for doing decisive what you're expected to do. And I believe that our viewers will be happy listening to you. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
The supremacy of a constitution in a sovereign state can never be questioned or debated. This is because the Constitution is not only the ground norm of the entire nation, but also takes precedence all over other laws in a country. In Nigeria, for example, sections 1, subsection 1 and 3 of the Constitution, 1999 Constitution as amended, solidified the supremacy of a constitution. It is therefore advised that we all have the civic duty and responsibility to obey the Constitution at all times. However, if at any point you are dissatisfied with any content or section of the Constitution, the only option that is available to you is to challenge that to a court of competent jurisdiction. Always remember, now when I do the thing right, you do the right thing, and our neighbors do the right thing, the world will be a better place to be. Therefore, go out there and do that which is good and right. This is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of Justified Nigeria. Join us same time, same station on another fresh episode of the program. Until then, this is Anozechi. I'm so urging you to be and remain a law-abiding citizen. And bye for now.